Hello everyone. Welcome to our second event. My name is Winnie McIntyre, and I am the founder as well as the president of EDU Opportunity Network. So, basically, the goal of our organization is to help people flourish in their educational pursuit. So, for people who are trying to study in the US, we want to help them do that by gathering all the information that we can and helping support them with different resources. With that said, one of the things that our organization does is we basically share different information by having these webinars, which the purpose of these webinars is to meet with people who have successfully navigated the international experience and have them share their journey and share their story. So that way, like other people who are potentially interested in studying abroad can also learn about some of these tips and advice. So for today, we are going to be focusing on students who have received admission to study in the US for fall 2024. So that's starting August. And they'll basically share like their personal experiences, whether it's in terms of how they got admissions, how they secured funding. So this is going to be a conversation. So throughout, if you have any questions, you can either unmute yourself and speak, or you can put it in the chat as we go through. But I know it's just a couple people on the call right now. I think we had about 40 people register, so I'm sure people will be coming in and out throughout the day. But again, this will also be on our YouTube channel as well, so other people can view. So with that said, I will turn it over to our panel. So if you could all please just start by introducing yourself. If you don't mind sharing your name, the program you'll be studying in the United States. If you're interested, you could also share the university that you'll be attending, as well as what motivated you to apply to schools in the US. And any of the panel could start.
Hi, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear.
Hi, my name is Rhyme Lagi. I'm going to school in Walsh University, Ohio. And lots of things motivated me to study in the US, but mainly a new environment, the diversity, to be able to really apply what you do in school, to make new connections. It was just a whole exciting process to take such a big step to, something, a future I am deciding myself. Because, when, like, as someone that grew up in Nigeria, your parents are always looking over your shoulder. And like now you have more of the opportunity to discover for yourself and also grow as a person without, you know, much guidance, but like you get to experience things and know what you like, know what you don't. So going to school in America was a really big opportunity for me. So I took it. It's nice.
Thanks, Ram. And I know it seems like Tochi probably dropped. Mary Cynthia, did you want to go ahead? Tochi, I don't know if Tochi, did you want to go ahead with your introduction?
Yeah.
Just share a little bit about yourself. Mm-hmm.
Hello?
Tochi, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, so Ram just introduced herself. So we're just having like all the panel introduce themselves and share a little bit about why they were interested in studying the US.
Okay. Okay. So good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tuchi. I school in Abuja currently. I'm not a traditional international student, but I do live in Nigeria, so I do count as one. I applied and was accepted to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, among other universities. And I feel like one of the things that really drew me to actually applying out there was number one, the fact that it really just opens you up to like a lot of opportunities that you won't really find down here. Like something that I'm personally interested in is biomedical engineering. And yes, we have that down here, but the resources for that isn't really that much down here. And it's something that I'm really interested in. So I found that actually applying there would give me access to those opportunities, those resources to actually learn more about the field and really know if this is something that I want to continue in. And just pretty much like expose myself to it. As I said earlier, it's an interest. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Tochi. And I think we have one more speaker as well. I don't know if do you go by Mary Cynthia? I think that's what your name is showing as. Can't hear her. Can you hear us okay? Maybe she can't hear us. Okay. I guess we can just keep going through the questions then. I guess the first question is what were the biggest challenges you faced during your college application process? And it's open floor. Anyone can start.
I feel like for me, it was actually knowing what it was about, because if you have actually like gone through the whole Nigerian application university, because like when I was applying to university, I also tried to apply to now. Now is like a university in Abuja, for those of you guys who might not know. So the application process is very different, and it was almost like shocking to me because there's all these different things. There's the common app essay, there's supplements, there's extracurricular activities, there's the whole self-reporting grades. It's a lot. It's a lot because right here I'm just used to like, okay, I have to get my jam score, I have to get my WAEC, I need to get my NECO, all those things. It just seems like, okay, you just have to submit. But this is like, the process was so tasking. Like, you need to write this essay, and I didn't even know what the essay was about at first because there are so many things online. Okay, do this, don't do this. And there's really not that much advice, or the advice is very different. I can hear someone saying, do this, and then the next person will say, don't do this. So it's really confusing. I'll say definitely the process is different. Like, I'll say that was one of the most challenging things. It's kind of like getting used to the fact that it is different and it's not like anything I've known before.
Yeah, I definitely echo that. So thank you for sharing that experience. And then Rhyme, and I think Ike also just joined us. But yeah, Rhyme, go ahead.
Uh, One of the hard stuff during the application process was being able to compile everything and making sure you're getting emails, because you know sometimes they won't reach out to you. You have to send a bunch of emails. It was confusing. The essay, like it's like, oh, write the essay, and you think, okay, this is just an essay about myself. I've done this before, but then it's really different because of how you need to represent yourself. Another thing about the application process, like to even find the schools you want to go to, because it's not just random schools you apply to. So the search process, you have to check from students' point of views, look at their social media, if they have a YouTube, a TikTok, to really understand if that's the environment you'd want to be in. And it makes you question a lot of things, like, okay, at a point you'd be like, oh, what are my interests? Who am I? Like, would I want to it honestly, the self-discovery starts at the application level, right? And um getting things on time, the evaluations, like you just be praying like, okay, when do I start this? What do I do first? So because it's so different, the arrangement of what you should do first and how you should do it, how you should represent yourself to the schools you want to go to, and getting everything ready and set on time was really tasking during this application process.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably even the biggest challenge is I think first is like figuring out because even in the US, like there are over 50 states in the US and a lot of those states have like multiple schools within them. So it's figuring out like what schools do I even want to start applying for? But also like geography matters. Like, do you want to be in the South? Do you want to be in the North? Like, where in the US do you want to be with? I know like sometimes people have like family in certain areas, so they're like, oh, okay, I have family in Ohio, so I want to be in Ohio, or I have family in Florida, so I want to be in Florida. But also like looking at like the different schools, like their financial aid package, like what sort of scholarships are you applying for? Do you need? So yeah, it's a lot. Anyways, the next question we have is how did you research and choose the universities that you applied to? So maybe you could also share like how many universities did you apply to, and then how did you research and find those universities?
Okay. So for me, I feel like it was very, very different. So I applied to a total of, I think, 9 universities. It might be eight. So one of them, the first one, the one I'm currently going to UNC, one of my friends actually applied last year, and that was really just like one of the things that just motivated me to apply. So like she just mentioned the school like once, and I was like, let me Google it, and I found out I had like programs that I was interested in, and then I just applied. For the rest, I pretty much just, like all these social media accounts, you see a lot of them. So like when I see these accounts online, I pretty much just kind of like keep them down. Like, hey, I've seen this school somewhere. Let me actually check out the school. Another thing was global rankings and like, rankings within the country for like my major and stuff like that. And another thing is also like states. There were like some states that I knew that I would like to go to, and some states that I knew that I was absolutely not interested in. The states that I was interested in were basically New England, California, North Carolina, and that was pretty much it. Um, I think that was pretty much like how I got all my schools, because once you know exactly what type of place you want to be in, it kind of like reduces the amount of stress you have to do, go through looking for schools, because then you're not looking at 50 states anymore. You're looking like at four, you're looking at five, you're looking at six. So I pretty much just narrowed it down to those about like 8 states. I applied to four in California, one in North Carolina, one in New York, and one in New England area. So that was pretty much how I kind of got my list. Yeah, that was it.
How I got my list was the first thing I was saying, oh, scholarship, scholarship, scholarship. So watched a bunch of YouTube videos of social media saying, oh, this school provides this type of scholarship. You take it down and like I personally went to go through their schools. First, you have to check if they have your major because they can have a good scholarship and not have what you're studying. You have to look at the department. So that's what I did. Um, I researched it, looked at the clubs. I wasn't really keen on a place to stay in, right? But then once I saw the school and I liked it, I would check the place just in case. But I wasn't looking at a particular place. So I applied to up to 20 schools all around America. Like, I didn't hear back from all of them because I did end up completing my applications because once I narrowed it down to 10 and like saw, okay, this is the type of place I want to go to, the institution, how they treat the courses. For someone like me, I looked at the size of the school. As a person individually, there are different settings you feel like you can thrive in. Are you the type of person that can stand out in big crowds and small crowds? What your school stands for. So I'm going to Walsh University. It's a small community, like a Catholic school. They do a lot of service learning, lots of physical hands-on learning, and all schools do that. But this is like because it's a small school, it's easier to get people to do things and to work with their hands and all of that. So I looked at the scholarships. I looked at how I could get in because schools like Ivy Leagues or really competitive schools, I had to look at, okay, what was the scores I was getting um, even beforehand, because I started looking for schools really early, like in the 10th grade. Uh, so you work towards particular scores, so you know that you qualify to go to this school, because you can spend your time applying to a bunch of schools and not being able to get into any. Um, I also found schools from college, what you call it, where you write your SATs, college board. So normally they send out emails like to schools contact you, practically just advertising, but you never really get anything big out of it. So once you search up a school that they give you, you would see schools that are alike or in the same area, and then you can research all of them. I actually found my school like from an email. It was a really um out of the air thing. I was done applying and then I saw this school and I looked it up and I was like, this has almost everything I want in a school. Like the type of place I would want to be in, researched it more. You sent, like, I sent emails. I sent so many emails because you won't know everything surface level, and it's always good to ask and not be shy. So there are things that I heard about schools that I didn't like, right? And then some that would like make me want to go to the school. So yeah, I found it like school research is a big thing. That's the thing that'll take up most of your time. So before you apply, you're going to spend a whole month looking at schools, like, oh, and as it keeps going, you keep finding schools, dropping schools, and to reach your taste. So yeah, that was it for me. So
And
apply
that's
to
really
20.
good. 20. I feel like 20, I mean, 20 is not a lot in terms of, I think as international people, like it's not a lot, but I think also it depends on certain factors. Because I think if you have like a lower GPA, people tend to apply, more. But I think some of the points that Ryan and Tochi have made that I think are really good to keep in mind is like, I think for people who are trying to, start school in fall of 2025, like right now is the best time to start your research. So look for, like what schools are you trying to be at? Like what SAT scores do they require? If you're doing a master's or PhD, do they want GRE? Like, what do they want? If you're currently in school, like this is the time, like the US really focus a lot on GPA. So this is the time to make sure that all the classes that you're currently taking, that you're succeeding in them, whether it's A's or B's, like you need to keep your GPA up so that way, you're able to get more scholarship opportunities. I think for my personal experiences, like when I was searching for schools, I wasn't really focused on like, is this school like highly ranked? I was really focused on like the financial aspect of it because I know like, I couldn't afford like studying, in the US. So I really needed scholarship. So my focus was really on like what schools will give me the most money. And I think sometimes like that's motivation for a lot of people as well. So if that's your motivation, then you need to look at all 50 states to say, okay, where am I going to get the most money? Like what has the best program for me? Because for me, like I applied to a bunch of schools in undergrad, and I think I ended up getting like 7 admissions, and all of them gave me a full ride scholarship. But then I decided to then be more critical of like, okay, like, do I want to be in this state? Or, will this school, like, will I be able to stand out in this school? Like, what does life after school look like? Like, does the school have more opportunities for me to be employed later? Like all of those things were things like I kept in mind as well. I know we have a couple people. We have like some people in. So if you have questions at all, please put it in the chat so we can go through them as the panel are sharing their experiences. Um, I know we have one. It's not a question, but it just says, "Hi, I'm Simon Henry from Malawi." Hi, Simon. And he said, "I applied for an MPH majoring in biostatistics at St. Louis University for spring. So that's like January of next year. You just need help with scholarship or loans, a bank statement." So in regards to scholarship, I think a lot of people will tell you that there are like external scholarships out there. I feel like for me, those were always the hardest. So I really focused on universities that offer like scholarships within them. So it was either I applied for those, or some schools also have like, I think it's called need-based scholarships. So based on like your income, um, you might qualify for some of those scholarships. So those may be some things to take a look at. But I always tell students, if you really need money, like if you need scholarship money, I wouldn't focus on a specific school. Like I would just apply to everywhere and see where it gives you the most money. But again, like as you have questions, please put it in the chat. And then for our panel, the next question we have, I think I'm gonna skip over some of them just because of time. So we'll move over to like our next phase is, what are some of the obstacles that you faced as, I know Tochi, you're not necessarily an international student, but you're an international applicant, kind of. But anyways, what are some of what are some of the obstacles you faced as an international applicant, and how did you navigate them? Tochi, Ryan, who wants to start first? How about I can start? I'll get it kicking for you guys. I was gonna say, I think as international people, I think especially living in Africa, there's so many challenges. The first is even like having data to do a lot of, especially for like masters and PhD. You need to have data to, apply to the schools. You need to find a place to take your SAT or GRE. Like, I think those were some of the challenges. And also, even sending emails. When I was living back in Nigeria, I did not check my emails that often. But in the US, like, I don't think I've gone a day without checking my emails. Like, you always have to check your email. So I hope that's speculating your brain so you guys can, add some of what you've experienced as well.
Something that was hard was because there are SAT places you can get lessons, like lesson places that you can go and get where you can get tutored for your SATs, but like it's always hard to find one with good resources and the teachers that know what they're doing. I remember the first time I tried to take classes for my SATs, I didn't understand anything they were saying. It wasn't making sense to me. They weren't going with the books. Like, it was like they weren't trained for it. So one thing is finding people that could actually help you. Self-study is also really good, but sometimes, like with my friends, I had to sit down and think about the question, and we had to discuss it and see how we understand, because the way the SATs exam are is serious critical thinking. Something you might say like, this could never be the answer, and like it ends up being it, and the explanation like makes so much sense, and you're like, oh. So finding resources to study for the SATs, and they were really expensive. I remember when I got into my schools and I had to have some Zoom meetings, the network was not on my side at all. Like, it would be cracking, they won't hear me, we would have to reschedule. So that was a big problem for me. Another thing is making some payments. You'd have to get a dollar card, or there was this app that someone recommended for me, but I did end up using it. Some things you have to it has to be done in America, like your service fee, that's like in the visa area. So making payments was also not easy, and with the exchange rate, everything is really expensive. So figuring out which one is best for you, which evaluation is cheaper, which one your school accepts, it was pretty rough. It was pretty hectic to find everything out and to get everything ready. Another thing is, like, as an international student, they don't tell you some things that like international students should know. And when you find out, it's going to be like, oh, I didn't know. You can miss a bunch of deadlines. You can be charged more. Like in my school, there's a parking fee, something. You can't set up, there's a payment thing that international students don't have for a school. You naturally just pay your tuition directly or things like that. But students have this thing that they put all their, like, there's an amount there that anytime it needs to be paid, it goes to the tuition. But we don't have that. We actually have to run around and gather our money. And like, some resources are not offered to us because we are not citizens. But then people don't know that early, and it causes a bunch of complications. And I think that was just the really hard part, moving the money around and trying to get everything set, the resources for your exams. In fact, I never knew anything about evaluation until the school sent me an email that we need an evaluated copy. I had to be like, oh, Winnie, what does this mean? Like, where can I get this done? Which one is best? And if you don't know a trusting person, like, or a trusted agency to go to, you'd be really confused through the process. You won't know what to do. You'd actually give up on applying, because I wanted to apply to other countries, but I didn't understand the processes of it, right? And I didn't have anybody to guide me. So I was kind of the one I had access to, which was America. I had access to talk to Winnie. I had access to um, another agency in the American embassy, and they would help you and they would explain things to you. So that really helps. But it's really, I think there's only one in Nigeria at this point in time. So people all over Nigeria, in Lagos, everywhere, and it's so, like, it's quiet until you look for it. If you don't look for it, you're not going to find it. So most people find it hard to find the resources to do the application process itself and to look for schools, and that can be really hard. Yeah.
Sochi?
Okay, so for me, I feel like it's mostly just gathering things like documents, the financial documents, the taxes, your transcripts. It's very stressful. Another thing was actually getting recommendation letters for me. Um, there's a certain format that I wanted my recommendation letters in, and I felt like a lot of teachers in my school weren't really understanding that. So like kind of like getting that thing that you want that is different from what they are used to is very, very difficult. Another thing for me was that the process was kind of isolating. I do have some friends who did apply to United States, and I'm so grateful, but it's still such an isolating process because a lot of people around you, specifically for me, my parents and my teachers at school, they'll be like, okay, what do I need this for? Like, didn't they already submit this? Like, why do I need the official thing? But they don't understand that this is something that I need. And it felt like I was kind of being, what's it called? I was asking for too much almost when it's a requirement. So it kind of made me feel like I was a burden to everyone around me at that point. So a lot of people do not understand the application process down here, and explaining it to them and explain to them that you're not doing too much is definitely something that was a problem. Another thing for me was really just not knowing anything. Like, obviously, I went to the application process knowing what I wanted, the type of results that I was expecting. But there is so much information about United States universities that you have no single idea about. When I was applying, I was just like, I don't even know how to put, like, everything about US universities are so different in terms of like the way classes operate, in terms of like the research opportunities. I knew that there were going to be opportunities available to me, like, okay, I'd have like classes to attend, career stuff to do. But then I didn't recognize that it was actually like going to be a thing. And I don't really know how to explain that particular thing, but especially if you're interested in like undergraduate research, you won't really know what they mean by research until you actually start looking into what they actually mean by research. And it just kind of like blows my mind that as an undergrad you can do that type of stuff. So that was something that was definitely interesting to me. Another thing for me was kind of just feeling intimidated by people who are not schooling down here. Like, I know personally, when I was applying, I was watching a lot of these videos online. My dream school was actually Brown University, but I did not get in. I was watching a lot of these videos online. We have the stats, extracurriculars, coming up essays, and then you see all these people, you've seen someone has cured cancer when they're like 15, you've seen someone has done this non-profit, you've seen this person, and you're just like, I literally have absolutely nothing that's going on for me right now. And whether I like to accept it or not, there's just this kind of like sting and almost that regret that you kind of have, like, why didn't you know this earlier? And you kind of start looking for who to blame. Like, why did my school tell me this? Why didn't? And that, I feel like that's one of the things I struggle with the most, like kind of like coming over like my feelings of inadequacy. Because there was actually a point in time where I said that I wasn't going to apply there because I just knew that I was going to get rejected. I mean, I did get rejected, but then I just didn't want to apply before getting rejected. Another thing is, if you're someone who is like low income, the rejections will sting very hard coming from schools that you're expecting to give you financial aid. Like, Brown gives like full financial aid to everyone regardless of your citizenship status. So I was really expecting to like get financial aid from them, and then I got rejected, and that was like one of the schools that I was really banking on for financial aid. And I got rejected from a ton of schools that I applied to. I think I only got into like I don't know how many I got into. I'll think of that later. But the rejections are actually so insane. There are some times where it will kind of make you feel like all the hard work that you did kind of just went to waste because, you know, in high school, you're told like, okay, if you just study for your WAEC, study for JAM, you're going to be okay. You're going to have everything settled out for you. But then you go into a system that doesn't really appreciate that. The system doesn't really care about how high your JAM score was or how high your WAEC score was. So it feels like everything you've been working towards for the past like 6 years of your life just went to absolute waste, and it makes you sad. And I feel like another thing for me was kind of accepting the fact that I was sad, and it's okay to be sad, it's okay to feel like it didn't really make sense, because at the end of the day it doesn't. And I won't even blame myself because I didn't even expect to go to the States in the first place. So I feel like another thing is just kind of allowing yourself to just embrace the process, because there's going to be a lot of ups, there's going to be a lot of downs, there's going to be lots of times where you have this thing that you're going to submit to this school that you forgot to submit and now they can't evaluate your application. There's going to be some schools that will close your application because you weren't able to get your transcripts on time. There's some schools who would say that, okay, maybe um your they need some tax information and you might not have that readily available because getting taxes down here is so difficult. So there are just going to be things, there are going to be so many things that can discourage you, so many things that will make you feel like you're not worthy of this, so many things that will make you kind of like discourage or kind of make you feel smaller than you actually are. That kind of aspect of feeling smaller was something that I personally really, really, really struggled with. So definitely prepare yourself for that. It's inevitable. You're going to see a lot of that, a lot of rejections, a lot of things that don't go exactly the way you wanted, some surprises as well, because some places will surprise you as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you both for sharing. We do have some questions in the chat. I know Max says hello. How does your service work? Mike, I'm not sure of the specific services that you're asking about, but if it's regarding like the organization, so we're a new nonprofit organization. So we're really focused on, again, like helping students. So if you're interested in studying in the US, so some of the things we do is we just released like an ebook. So the ebook has like different universities that offer fully funded opportunities. So that's one thing we do. And then having these webinars where you can, ask questions of people who have received admissions or people who are currently studying in the US. Like that's another thing that we offer. And then we also offer some other things as well. I'll put our website in the chat so that way you can visit it. But if you have specific questions, I no longer like do consulting because it is a lot of work to like help guide people through. But if there are specific questions you have, we also have like a Telegram group where people who are interested in studying the US, so they're always putting questions in there and I'll answer them. So if you have any questions about studying the US, or if you just need someone to like be your unofficial mentor, like I'm able to do that. I have a baby and a lot of things going on, so I'm not able to like dedicate my time full time to consulting, but I'm always able to answer questions as well as they arise. And then Ikenna says, hi everyone, feels good to be here. This application process can be very stressful. You'll want to you'll want to rest the case, but when you remember my sweet country, you don't need to be told to keep applying. I got really close with this fall, but I couldn't get the GAs. I had to sneak in here to tap from inspo or inspiration for the next level. It's so good to see you. I know it's very disappointing, but I will tell you, I know a lot of people in the US who have been denied, like, and I mean, you didn't even get to the phase of the visa, but a lot of people, they'll get the funding, but then they go to their visa interview and then they are denied. Like, I know someone here that's been denied like 4 times, and the 5th time they made it. And I'm not saying like that's gonna be the case for you, and I really hope not. But I think a lot of it is just persevering. It's just no matter what, it's just keeping the hustle, which I think for a lot of Nigerians, we know how, a lot of Africans in general, we know how to hustle. So I feel like it's going to be okay. Like definitely, if you're still interested in the United States, I think you should definitely, consider applying again next year. Like you just never know, and you only need one school to give you that full funding. So not a lot of schools. And then Simon, you said any answers for the questions asked. I'm not seeing your question. Tochi and Ryan, do you guys see Simon's question? I didn't see any that we haven't answered. Let's see. Yeah, I don't see any. If you don't mind putting the question again, I'm not seeing it. And then let me see what are the questions. Do you offer visa support? Not really. I think what we're going to do is we're actually going to have one of these events as well where we're going to talk people through the visa process. But I don't do like one-on-one like support you through the visa. It's but we're going to have an event. I mean you can always, and that's the wonderful thing about this is like you can always give me suggestions of things you'd like to see. So if you want to talk to students who have like if you want to talk to students who have navigated the visa process, we can do that. Or if you really want us to go through, okay, like I'm the visa interviewer, I'll ask you a question and then you tell me what your response would be and we critique that or we criticize that. Like you can let me know as well. Website, okay, so I'll do that. I'll add the website and all of that. Okay. And then Ikenna, I don't know, Ikenna, are you able to unmute? Someone was asking if you could be a little bit specific on some of the obstacles you faced. I don't know if you guys are able to unmute and speak. Let me see. Oh yeah, I can allow Mike. Ikenna, I don't know if you're able to just share a little bit more of your obstacles. I can't hear him.
Can you hear
I
me?
think we can hear you now. Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. It was hi everyone. It's afternoon here. Good afternoon. And I joined you guys earlier, and I felt it's a little bit inspiring to see you all share your stories, and and then I don't know why we're having just the females. Why are the guys not here? You know, we should have some guys. I
We
should.
had one guy, but I don't think he hopped on. Yeah, we had Ike. He was from Ghana that was also going to share his experience, but I'm sure with Wi-Fi issues and everything, yeah, he didn't hop on.
Okay, I should be able to make my next trip so that I'll share my experience with the people who are coming on. So, all right. Yeah, so I've been on this with Winnie for I think for 2 years now, going through the processes. We just get too close, and then stories will now come and enter. We got the closest this year with we got admission for two schools, Nova, South Florida, and then West Georgia. For applied for student affairs, masters in student affairs, and then while I was waiting for GA, that grad assistantship, which is what I wanted. The US tuitions are really expensive, plenty money, and because Nigeria is not allowing us have that kind of money to fund those programs, we rely on the GAs, and I wrote to several, applied on the portals, sent in CVs, resumes, and all of that, but they were not coming forth, and I did a couple of interviews for Nova, and then eventually, I said, ah, dear Ikenna. When the letter begins with dear Ikenna, you're in trouble. So, so they didn't come. They announced that they weren't going to give me the GS for Nova, but I could still go ahead and apply for visa. Send me invitation to apply for the visa and all of that. I didn't go through with it because I had my worries. Because I was worrying that I could go, and because this is Winnie, I was worried that I could go apply for the visas and then it wouldn't come through because of what it would look like, And then when we finally decided to go through the visa processes, it was a bit late, and paying for the service fees, paying for the visa applications, it's now very expensive, compared to the previous years. And then I now thought of maybe we should just leave it for the next year. I now wrote letters to the school asking them to defer my admission to January, if that would be possible. But they said that they excuse me. They now said they can't move it to January. That they will now have to do next fall, that's 2025, and I'll have to apply all over again. That means this admission I suffered to get will now go. All right. So then for West Georgia, I applied on the portal for the GAs. I didn't interview for any of them. I mean, I kept writing to them, asking for all of that. Even till now, I checked their email, their portal before coming here. There are still GAs that are available. You know, I've also applied. I applied for one before I came for this interview, but there's no invitation, no notice, no nothing, nothing. I mean, I feel very frustrated with that. It's better they don't paste anything on that portal than to paste it and we don't have any response, no responses, no information whatsoever on that regard. And it makes you feel like you're not making plenty effort and you're not really doing a lot in that particular field. But I think it's been a great journey, a wonderful experience going through for 2 years now. We're going through the processes, trying to make sure that you have knowledge of what's going on there, how to apply for the schools, aside from the money spent in the application fees. But you have the knowledge on how to write letters. I have written a lot of letters, writing the letters, sending to Winnie to make corrections, and then at some point she now left me alone and I became a pro in writing letters. And this is one of the one of the benefits you get in this thing. And thanks to Winnie too, who allowed me, who gave me a lot of attention, time, even when I'm almost giving up. Because my friend, you need to get on this, get on this, get on this, get on this, and somehow, for her sake, you pick up and get back to it. I think been a wonderful experience, and I'm hoping that in 2025. I don't know if I'm giving up for this year already because it looks like it's already late because schools are resuming in August. But if it's late already, that means if where Georgia does not respond to us eventually, that means we'll have to wait for 2025 because US is the place. We need to be in the US now. We have to be in the US and then do some US things, and I mean the US matters. I think this is it. I like to appreciate you for organizing this. It's very insightful, very educating. I think more people should join this. I've shared this link to a couple of people, hoping that they will come in and join, but I've not really seen. Maybe they're busy. But we need to do it often so that people can really be a part of it. And a lot of people want to be in the US. So, but this will guide them on how to. I don't know if we have to 10, but I hope that in subsequent editions, we have even up to 20 and more people joining. It's a laudable
Yeah.
initiative, and I wish you luck.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Akina. Thanks for sharing your experience. I was going to say we only have 15 minutes on this left. So I'll skip through most of the questions because I want to leave at least 10 minutes for people to ask questions. So maybe Rhyme and Tochi, like this is a 2-in-1 question. Can you speak a little bit about like finding can you speak a little bit more about finding scholarships? Like, how did you find scholarship? And then also talk a little bit more about any advice that you would give to, other people who are interested in coming to the US. Because like I said, you've been super successful. The fact that you guys, I know Ryan is going to be here in like 2 days or 3 days, and Tochi's coming in August. So just speak a little bit more about how did you secure funding? How did you secure scholarship? And also like what advice would you give to other people? And then we can open it up to take all questions for our last 10, 15 minutes. Tochi, Ryan, who wants to go first?
Okay, so for starters, my personal advice is that, as Winnie said, I think earlier in this meeting, she said that you should go for more of institutional scholarships. And I definitely do agree with that because most of these like full ride scholarships out there are usually like targeted by very, very top people in the United States. Not saying that you can't do that, but then if you're relying on that financial aid, if you're relying on scholarships, it's not something that you should really depend on. That's number one. Number two is if you know that your stats might not really be on par to get like the merit-based financial aid. Another thing you can look into is need-based financial aid. Like I know most schools in like the top 200 do give like need-based financial aids. So you could go to check for some schools that are very generous with need-based financial aids as well. So that means you would just basically have to put in like your parents' income, your different things, and then they'll evaluate it. And if you make under a particular thing, I think most schools, once it's under like 85K, you're going to get full aid. And I'm sure like a lot of people in Nigeria make under 85K a year. That's like what, 100 million a year. Like not really many people make that. So that's definitely something. Another thing is that while you're applying to universities, don't wait to actually get admitted into that university before you start checking for funding. Before you actually apply, try to see if the school has things available for you, because you're going to be so heartbroken if you get into a school and realize that the reason why you're not going to be able to go is because you can't afford it, especially if that is one of the only schools that you are accepted to. As someone who was seeking financial aid, I did not apply to any schools that I did not have any potential of getting financial aid from. I know that there were some schools that were less likely to give me aid, and there were some schools that were more likely to give me financial aid. But you should definitely have a school that you know, not even just a school. Like if you're applying to like 10 schools, obviously like all 12 of them should be given aid. But if you know that you need that aid, like you can't leave this country if you do not have aid, at least 5 of those schools, you should be sure that if you get in, you're going to get some form of financial aid or a scholarship and everything like that. Another thing that I would say is to try to be very honest with yourself. Like don't be delusional. Like there's time to be delusional, but this isn't it. Because if you're delusional, you're going to be so heartbroken. Be honest with yourself and say, this school and this scholarship I'm applying for, am I genuinely like, do I really have the requirements for it? Because yes, it's good to be ambitious and stuff like that, but you need to also be realistic with yourself. If like the majority of people who actually get the scholarships have like a 4.0 GPA, 1600 ST. I mean, that's a realistic, but I'm assuming, like, let's put like a scenario out there. You should just kind of like be honest with yourself. If it needs like, okay, 1400 or like a 1500, and you have like a, what's it called, 1400, for example, you can apply for that, but then don't bank on it. Know what you're banking on and know what not to bank on, if you understand what I'm talking about. So yes, aid, especially if you need it, because I know there are some people out there who have money, okay, and some people might not need that money. But if you know very, very well that you cannot afford this at all, please, I will beg you, because this almost happened to me. If I didn't get accepted into UNC, I don't know what I would have done. And it was a long shot. So please, I'm begging you guys, check which schools have aid and do not be delusional for your sake. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Thank you, Tochi. Brian?
Um, when like about scholarships, there are a bunch of things that you really. First off, you need to make sure the scholarships are available to international students. So I did not apply for need-based financial aid on some basis. Like you see what your parents are comfortable filling out, and in the forms in the CSS profile. So I decided to go for merit-based because I kept my grades high. I got good scores on my exams. So I figured I had the chance to do it. So first, you have to check whether those scholarships are available to you as an international student, because some scholarships are specifically not for international students. Mainly international scholarships are better than external. I know that during my process, I still looked for external scholarships to help. Like there's no harm in looking and applying to external scholarships, but don't depend on those, because it's really hard to get them. They So many people see it and only 2 or 3 people end up getting the scholarship. It's best to look at the institution and the scholarships they offer. When it came to me, because I got a few scholarships from the schools I went to, or that I applied to and accepted me, I also got rejected, right? You can get rejected and they'll tell you could potentially get a scholarship, right? But you're you can't afford the school. That really happens. So when you're looking at schools, also look at the prices and look at how much they can um drop how much money like they can offer you. That's really important because some schools don't offer big financial aid packages. Some just 2,000, 3,000, and they would have a big name next to the scholarship, and you think it's covering something serious. Um, One very important thing that despite your scores, is your essay, your personal essay about yourself, and the other essays they ask you to write. Maybe if you're trying to get into a really competitive school, your essay has to be it has to be genuine. It has to be like, if they smell a lie, you're not getting into the school. If you have to be very honest during your application, you have to be very creative, write in a way that they can understand who you are. I know for me, writing my essay took it was the thing I spent the most time on, because it was, how do I start? How do I make these people attracted to me? That's also important, because you have to look for a school that is looking for someone like you. Schools are looking for every type of person everywhere. There's no, oh, I can't do this, or this school. There's another school with good funding that would want you, that you would like. So I'm honestly going to encourage that nobody should say like, oh, I can't go in. There's so many options. It doesn't have to be that Ivy League. It doesn't have to be that school in New York. There are so many good schools around America. Like, America is a really big place with many opportunities. So in your essay, one thing I noted, because I had to rewrite my essay a bunch of times, was you can't put yourself down, and you don't talk down on yourself in your essay, because what your essay is doing now is advertising yourself to those schools. Like, okay, this is what you will get if you have me as a student. And that your essay should mainly point out like how you can, in different, you don't have to tell them, I'm going to add to your school by doing this. You just describe the situations that led up to a particular thing in your life, what defines you as a person, and putting you don't, like, now you can say, oh, I'm not really good at this, but you don't write those type of things in your essays. You write, I'm very exceptional, like I do well at this. You excel. You don't talk yourself down in your essays, because people in schools are really attracted to um you as a person, kind of more than your scores. Because I got, my SAT score wasn't that high. I know people that got all those SAT scores that you'd be like, oh my days, how did you get this? Where did you read? What was I not doing? But because of my essays, I managed to get big scholarships, because they said this is the type of person we want in your school. And also, if you want to get a scholarship based on merit and essays, you have to involve yourself in community service things. You can't be that person that sits at home and does nothing, right? You have to show that you have experience in different areas. Those are the type of people they want in their school, right? And you can also, like, you can mention quite, like, in some places, how you can need funding. You might need funding. Some schools even come, like, send you emails, what would you be willing to pay, and things like that. um so yeah, when you have to be involved. You have to be involved. You have to get good scores. You have to make sure the scholarships are available to international students. And you you place your bets. You put your essays, the things you've done, your community service activities, and that school would already be interested in you before looking at your scores. Some schools you have to get in before you apply for scholarships, and some schools scholarships are automatic. Another thing about scholarships is that for me, I have a scholarship in Walsh University, right, for a global program and community service, right. I One reason why I was still attracted to Walsh was because, despite having a scholarship at hand, like the one they gave me at the beginning, you have the opportunity to apply for more scholarships, or like during along the way, to reduce your funding. they have employment opportunities on campus to help you pay for your education, to pay for your housing. And that's very important when you're looking at the schools. See where, because you also have to manage and obtain a specific GPA to keep a merit-based scholarship, right? And we, as people that are international, so we don't really know how things are marked. We don't know how it's done. I know that it's done very differently because a lot of times growing up, I did a lot of cram work, and that's not really how it is. It has to do with a lot of critical thinking. Like some things, it's not just what they give you in class. You have to research all these things, and your scoring, like God forbid it, but imagine your score isn't what you expected it to be. If that school doesn't have the opportunity to grant you another scholarship based on what you can attain, then I would say that is reaching because you can't really afford it. Let's say after your first year, you lose that scholarship, God forbid, and you start looking like you're stranded. You can't pay off your next year. You have to come back to your country. It's really disappointing to be in situations like that. So you still look at what the school has to offer as you keep going because it's 4 years, it's not just 1 year. So those 4 years and how the scholarships are that like are giving out, what you need to do to attain specific things is very important when you're looking for scholarship. So for someone that did a merit base, you have to be really focused on your essays, your community service, and the opportunities your school has for you as an international student.
Thank you, Ryan. I know we only have 3 minutes, so audience members, if you guys have any questions, please put it in the chat. I did also just want to echo some of the things Ryan and Tochi both said. Like I said, I've been living in the US for 10 years. I originally came here to do my bachelor's degree. So I did my bachelor's at Jackson State University, and then I have a master's at Kent State University. And one of the biggest, because I did secondary school, so high school in Nigeria, and one of the biggest, I think, differences between the American educational system and the Nigerian one is I feel like here it's very hands-on. Like Rhyme said, they want you to critically think. They want you to do research. Like I feel like in Nigeria, like the teacher is writing on the board. You take your notes, you go home, you study those notes, and you come back and take your test or exam. But in the US, like they want you to understand everything. They want you to go in the lab. Like they want you to actually get your hands dirty doing the actual work. So and also I think again, like Rhyme said too, is those experiences is very, very important. Like in the US, they want you to be doing volunteer work. So even if whether you're in school or not, like when I was doing my bachelor's degree, I had a job. Like as an international student, you're allowed to work on campus for 20 hours a week. So like I had a job, and it's not just for the money, but also for the experiences as well, because that's something you can add to your resume. So in undergrad, I was working in the international office, and then for my master's program, I had a GA. So the GA was nice because it was paying my tuition. Um, but I also had to work for them, in exchange for them paying my tuition. So I worked as like in their residence life team. So that was also gaining me experiences as well. And also just shout out to Tochi. Like I have been so impressed by the number of students who are reaching out to me to say, oh, can I volunteer for your organization? That's something you can do. Like if there are organizations out there that you're like, oh my gosh, I'm passionate about what they do, or I don't have any experience. So I think that's the one thing back home. I'm sure things have changed because I said like it's been 10 years, but like back home when I was still living in Nigeria, the focus was on like you need to go to school, you need to study, you need to have good grades. Like I didn't know a lot of Nigerian students that were also working at the same time. But in the US, it's very, very common for people to, be in school but also work as well. So in fact, they expect you to. So I think also, as you're thinking about coming to the US, also preparing yourself for some of those changes would be good. It's 10, so I know we have to go, but are there any final questions? Any final thoughts? Tochi, Rhyme, do you guys have anything else you want to say to our audience before we close out? And I see a question from Mac. He says, do you assist students with their SOP? Yeah, I'm happy to review for you. And I do have some friends as well. I have a lot of a lot of friends in the US as well that can help you review. But yeah, you can send it to me. Let me put in the email for our organization. EDU opportunity. But Tochi, Rhyme, do you guys have any final thoughts before we go?
Just start early. Like for those of you guys who might be wanting to study there in fall 2025, that means you're going to be applying by this year, December, next year, January, through I think to April. April, March is when majority of schools are done taking applications, unless it's like a school that does rolling admissions. So if you're interested, especially if you're interested in getting full funding, this is the time to start. It's not going to be time to start in like November, December, a month before the application. That is not what you're meant to do. If you know that you haven't involved yourself in community service yet, please do that. If you know that your SAT score is under the requirements for the scholarship that you need, try to retake it. If you haven't even taken the SAT, please start studying and try to take it in November, December. It's best for you to start at this time. You don't need to wait until a month before the deadline, especially if needful funding. Yeah.
Thank you. And I was also going to say too, I know like application fees are some of the issue or some of the deterrents for a lot of students. So one of the things my organization is doing, we're actually seeking people to fund, like we're collecting donations. So that way, like we're planning to help some international and US students pay for their application fee. So definitely like stay on our social media as well. That's something we'll be doing. I think our goal is to pay for at least 8 people we'll give 8 people $100 each to pay for the application fee. So we'll have the application open soon. So definitely keep that in mind. But I think that's the close of our event. Just wanted to thank you all so much for coming. Stay on our social media, follow us all on there. We have this video will also be uploaded to YouTube. So feel free to share with your friends as well. And if you have any questions for me, or if you want to connect with Tochi or Rhyme, like let me know and I can connect you to them as well. But thank you all so much for being here. I hope that this was impactful, and it was nice talking to you guys. And Tochi and Rhyme, like, good luck. Tochi, don't be a stranger. I know Rhyme won't be a stranger because she's coming to Ohio, but Tochi, like, feel free to reach out to me whenever. Happy to support. But thanks everyone so much, and have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.